Hi everyone, and welcome to Quest Connect. I am going to make sure, that I am live, given recent technical challenges. Just bear with me for a moment while I look at my phone and double check. And I think we're good to go. What do you think? I'll put that away now. Hey everybody, and welcome to take 2 of Quest Connect for October. We normally come to you on the first Sunday of every month, and of course that was last Sunday, and as some of you know, I had a bit of a massive hiccup last week, and put a little apologies video up. If you saw that, you will know that I was talking to myself for 45 minutes. So that is why I'm checking my phone, and probably will check my phone every Facebook Live I do from here to the end of time, to make sure that I don't do any more 45-minute rehearsals. One of the things I love about the Facebook Live posts is because they're live, and you get that real sense of immediacy, and that some people are joining me now, other people will be joining me later, but that sense of being live is really lovely because it's authentic, and if you make a mistake you can't go back and edit it out. It's not like other forms of documentaries or presentations, is it? So as always, I have my little notes to keep me on track. It's not that I stick to a script, but it keeps me on track in terms of what we're going to talk about today. And today we are going to talk about living and thriving in challenging times, and about mental health really. And October is Mental Health Month, and October 10 is World Mental Health Day, which must be, if it's the 8th today, it must be Tuesday, is the 10th of October. And you know, like many years ago, I was watching that documentary this week on Netflix about the Beckhams, and I'm not into football or anything like that, but I do love a good story about someone's life. And it was really interesting that when he went through some challenges early in his career, he was only 23, and you know, like the whole of England basically were bullying him because he'd made a mistake. And I just thought, wow, the term mental health wasn't really a thing back then, and people's mental health suffered as much as it does now, I'm sure, but no one acknowledged it, and people just had to soldier on, or I guess fall in a heap. I don't know what happened, but I'm so glad that we have more awareness around it now, and that World Mental Health Day and Mental Health Month exists. So what I thought we'd do today is we're going to talk about some of the mental health challenges you might be having, some of the consequences of those mental health challenges, and then most important, some simple strategies for good mental health so that you can thrive and not simply survive, as Wendy would say. So we like to start every session, no matter where it is or how long it is, with it coming to your senses. And this little process is really about just coming back to the moment. As Eckhart Tolle says, the present moment is the only place you can actually be alive, where you can feel like you are living. The rest of it, we are caught up in our mind and what we might call the default mode network, rehashing the past and wishing we'd done something different, wishing someone else had done something different. If only something had been different. If only I'd left earlier. If only they'd, married someone else. If only I'd got a second opinion earlier. If only will drive you nuts at 2 in the morning or any other time, wishing it were different. Or we can be cast forward in our mind to thinking about imagined futures based on the past. We're not saying we're imagining it from nowhere. Imagined futures, because our brain goes into this default mode, which helps us to survive. If a bear came into the cave once because the fire went out, we better be really careful not to let the fire go out again, right? So we become vigilant to the fire going out. And that's a good thing. It can keep the whole tribe alive, can keep you alive. However, if you have got a really well-stoked fire, using that analogy, which I'm making up on the spot, and everything's fine, and there's even someone watching the fire to make sure it doesn't go out, they're on duty overnight, your brain can still be on hypervigilant. And that's not useful, because you need to be sleeping then, right? So we need to bring ourselves back to the present moment, relax the nervous system a little bit if we can, and begin to re-educate the nervous system. Not to say that you shouldn't be on alert for when there's danger, but you don't want to be on alert all the time when there's no danger present. That's the point, and that's logical, isn't it? And really, that's what causes quite a lot of our mental health issues, and of course it's more complex than that as well. So let us start with the coming to your senses. I have a new camera today, so hopefully it's working okay. I wanted a new camera and I went out to buy a new keyboard because my keyboard wasn't functioning properly. Everything went on the same week this week, and I found a little one on sale that also came with a webcam. So let me know what you think of the quality. All right, so let us take a moment, and it's very, very simple. You can close your eyes. Closing your eyes just keeps out a little bit of that information that your brain's receiving visually, or you can absolutely just leave your eyes open, gaze down to your lap, or just leave your eyes open, whatever you want. So let us just take a moment, connecting with yourself as if you could withdraw your attention from wherever it's been. From my face, from the conversation you had a moment ago, from that cup of tea or coffee you just had, from whatever you were involved in, just coming back inside your own skin, feeling the weight of your body and the surface behind you, under your feet, your lower back, your upper back. Notice how your skin senses the pressure, the clothing between your skin and the surface underneath you. Notice clothing elsewhere on your body. Where is it tight? Where is it loose? And where does your clothing create warmth? Is there a sense of coolness, cool air on the skin, the hands, the legs or face? Just notice your breathing and that tiny movement of clothing when you breathe. And be aware of how your nostrils savor the air, picking up scent, the temperature of the air. And if you're holding tension, maybe have a little wriggle in your shoulders or your body. And a little sigh. Bring your awareness to your mouth. All the sensations inside the mouth. The structures in the mouth. The tongue. The teeth. Jaw. Bring all your awareness into your jaw. The inside of your cheeks, the roof of your mouth, and your eyesight. As you shift your awareness to your eyesight, what are you aware of? Are you aware of light or shade? Color maybe. What color? Maybe there's movement. Just be curious about what you can perceive, even if your eyes are closed. Let that space between your eyebrows widen and soften. And your hearing. Just being aware of the sounds around you. Just everything that meets your ears without strain, without analysis. Just all of the sound. Just awareness of sound. let your hearing run outside of your room, outside of your building, out into the atmosphere until you can hear the clouds moving across the sky. And the breath, the rise and fall of breath. And when you're ready, just opening your eyes. I can see that I have a few friends with me, so welcome. How lovely to know that I'm being joined by you now. It's difficult to actually read the comments while I'm actually talking, but I can see a couple of people whose names I recognize, and hello to you all. Lots of love to you all. And if you're looking at this later, then same to you. Thank you so much for joining us. This community of people who also care for Quest as much as I do, and my co-facilitators and team, you know, we really have a great appreciation for you. You are what makes our community tick, and you're turning up and being engaged. That means everything to me and also to all of our staff and team members at Quest. So hello and thank you for joining me, for sure. Now, if you don't know me, and I'm hoping you do, I'm Margie Braunstein, and I'm a senior facilitator here at Quest. I'm on lots of programs and I'm often out west. We're going to do some one-day workshops out west in Moree, Gunnedah, I should know this off by heart, Tamworth and Singleton, 13 to 17 November, I think we're going. So if you know anyone living out in northwest New South Wales, it's free workshops, please ask them to join us. So I'm lucky enough to go out there, be on the road, but also to be in programs. And I'll be on a Moving Beyond Trauma tomorrow with some beautiful people. Looking forward to that. So let us get on to mental health, because really Quest for Life is a mental health organisation, and it's a huge and broad name, mental health, isn't it? Huge and broad topic. So I'm going to try and narrow it down a little bit and run it through some of the philosophies of Quest. But if you do write something in the comments, or you make a comment that is a question or could be useful to someone else, we really love that engagement where you'll actually could be of use. So you could say something that could be of use to someone that I would never think of. So we really would love you to make those comments and contribute to each other's lives as well, and make this an even more vibrant community. I love that. So let us have a look at some of the challenges, and I think the best thing is to run it through what we call the Ds, and we say there's a D in every day, and the Ds are what Patria, she's developed a really clever way of talking about our challenges through the Ds. Now obviously every challenge that we have doesn't begin with D, but it is amazing how many have a D word. So debt is a big one. Finances generally. I think there's a lot of challenge in the world at the moment around our economy, our local economy, but also the world economy. There's a lot of fear mongering, and doesn't the media love to beat up the fear? Right? I say if it's on the internet, you want to be really careful. Check your facts, because the cost of living is definitely going up, and we can feel that when we go to the supermarket. Our farmers are feeling it. The whole of, well, I'm talking New South Wales, but the whole of Australia is feeling the pinch when it comes to the cost of petrol, groceries, insurance. I mean, everything's just gone up. Inflation has been out of control. And that can be really, really scary. You know, we need to feel at the most basic level that we have somewhere to live. And there's another thing, the housing crisis, and accommodation, our mortgages going up, you know, all of that contributes to a great sense of challenge and uncertainty, doesn't it? And then we have all the natural disasters, sending lots of love and rainbows to our friends on the South Coast, because even if you weren't affected by the fires last week, and we know a few people lost their homes, every single person that went through the 2018 and the 2020 fires anywhere up and down the New South Wales coast and elsewhere down to Malakuta and all up. As soon as that news came on, people that have been through that trauma before would have started to feel those old trauma symptoms. So we know disaster is another D that can strike fear into our hearts. And of course, it's not just in our mind, is it? It's the heart starts pumping, the thoughts start running about what if, and our gut starts churning. It's very physiological and very inflammatory to the system. And we'll talk about what's going to help in a minute. Diagnosis. I mean, we have a healthcare crisis at the moment, and not only that, but anytime you have a diagnosis, especially a life-threatening diagnosis, the moment before diagnosis, it's very different to the moment after, isn't it? If you have been through that kind of diagnosis of cancer, a neurological disorder, any kind of life-threatening condition, it's terrifying. And for some people, it makes them question their life, and it can really sharpen their priorities. But there can be pain, there can be treatment. I think medical trauma is very much underestimated, how that can affect people. Disability, and these diagnoses can lead to disability as well. Or you could be loving someone or living with a disability. It could be genetic, could have been caused by something that happened, but whatever the reason, disability is a massive issue and can affect our mental health. Diagnoses and medical conditions and disabilities can also be very isolating. As soon as you're in treatment or you don't have the energy to socialize, you get, no matter how many loving people you might have around you, they can't be with you 24 hours a day generally. Or you might not feel like talking, you might be stuck in your bed. And so it's very, very isolating as well. Domestic violence, there's another huge issue for our society. And whether it is a physical violence that you have experienced and or the emotional violence, financial violence, whatever it is, the trauma of that can have its legacy for a long, long time, and the residue can last inside your body for many, many years or decades. So we know that's a big one. Feeling disempowered can be in the back of that. Feeling trapped in a relationship, trapped in a job you might not like, but where you don't feel like you can, find another job easily, so you have to feel every day you're getting up Groundhog Day. It's really not good to feel like you feel trapped in any way, and yet sometimes we do, don't we? Just feeling down and helpless. That's a really big D, to feel that depression, that sense of hopelessness. I often think depression and anxiety can go together as well. You feel really anxious about something that could happen, might happen, right? And you're ramping that up, and then you feel no sense of any ability to do anything about it. And then you fall down into that hole. It's like hope and then disillusionment, and that can be a really vicious cycle that happens as well. Feeling disordered, like feeling like everything's chaotic and you can't get control of everything. It's all out of control, and order has gone in your life, and the bills are mounting up, and the kids are screaming, and you just don't feel any control at all. It's horrible. And that feeling of disconnection from others. We're social animals and we need each other. An animal that is separated from the herd is not safe. And we are herd animals as well. We travel in packs. We like to be with other human beings, especially if we feel safe. Mostly if we feel safe. That's why we stop socializing. And of course, with technology the way it is in the last 100 years or so, we've become more and more cocooned in our homes. It's a real problem for our kids and also for us as well. So look, there's many more Ds. Do you want to write some of your Ds down? What are the Ds that I've missed? I know there's so many more. I remember when I was up at Walgett 10 years ago or something, and I was talking to some people there. We had 70 people in the little pub in Rowena outside of Moree, and like 30 people out in Walgett. And I remember both groups of people, when I said, so what is, what's something that frightens you? What's one of the Ds? They went, the dust. It's the dust. And if it rains, it's the black mud. It's the dirt, And a little girl from the city, I had no idea that as soon as it, the dust from the drought is terrible, but the dirt, once it gets wet, if there's a downpour, there's another D. A deluge, a drought, here are some more Ds. As soon as that happens, the roads get this black mud because there's no tar seal on them, and it's very, very dangerous to drive. So all of these Ds feed into your second nature. You know, that's the way the world is. Life is tough. It's the default mode. The default mode is, there's two functions here that we could talk about. One is the default mode network, and that is a function of this medial prefrontal cortex. Sits up here on the top of the brain somewhere, and it is a function that defaults to the thing that's going to help you stay alive, right? And so it's our second nature. It's what we learned we need to do to stay safe, and we will go back to being responsible for everyone, caring for everyone, getting super busy, trying to perfect everything and stay in control and everything, right? That's what we do. We default back to when we're feeling under threat. We might disassociate ourselves from others or from ourselves, and it's just this default mode. Now, there's some things in the default mode that are really useful. You know, it's like if you're going to cross the road and a truck nearly runs you over, your default mode will get you off that road real quick, snap you back, fight, flight, freeze. Woo, all part of that too. But however, we get stuck in that place that we default to behaviors and thoughts that are not useful. And we can find ourselves, especially with trauma, looping around over and over and over the same stories. Have you ever found yourself telling the same story? I certainly have, and I know when I say to someone, I can't remember if I've told you this or not, it's because I know I've told so many people that I've lost track of who I've said it to and who I haven't said it to. That's a warning sign for me that I'm looping around in some old default mode, you know, for some reason, wanting validation, wanting to talk about it, trying to debrief it, whatever it is. But it's often a good warning sign if you find yourself, you know you've told this story many, many times before, but you're not getting anywhere. You're just going back into default. Now, the other part, the same part of the brain also has a function called the task positive network. When you focus on a task, when you bring your attention to your bum on the chair, feet on the ground, breath in the body, that is engaging your task positive network. Now, these two networks, if your default mode network is up and ramped up, right, with all those thoughts and terrors and imaginings and everything, right, it cannot be operating at the same time. When you come to a mindful moment of awareness, you will close down that default and you will actually be in a mindful moment of presence. Either one is working or the other. So you may as well, as often as you can, come back to the task positive. Just focus on a simple task. Bottom on the chair, breath in the body. Now, we're not talking about some Pollyanna thing where you just want to be happy and present all the time. Right? That's not how the body works. That's not how being human works. It's okay to need to process difficult feelings, to need to talk about stuff. There's no problem with any of that. The problem is when there's no balance. When you are just stuck in default mode, where you are just fretting and worrying and terrorized all the time and going into your trauma. If you take just a little break here and here and here throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your month, throughout your year, you come to a moment of presence. Then you come to a moment of presence. A breath, a minute, an hour. You just keep coming back to it. You retrain your brain to be more in the task positive as an automatic. That's what we want. Keep my eye on the time today. So we know that when things get tough, we revert to familiar strategies. They're like old paths, old goat tracks in the mind, and it's so similar, isn't it? Whether we feel resentful, whatever it is. So let's move on to some of the consequences of facing these challenges, facing the Ds, because, you know, it's a really good thing to become aware of them so you can begin to tease it apart a little bit. We talk at Quest about second nature and first nature. We know what the second nature is, right? It's those automatic behaviors, thoughts, feelings that just keep on repeating themselves over and over, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. This happens, I do that. This happens, I do that. Right? This happens, I freak out. This happens, I go and look after everyone else first and not myself. We know second nature. If there is a second nature, what must there also be by definition if there's a second nature? Right? Second nature is your knee-jerk reaction. There must be a first nature. So what is your first nature? That's the really good question to ask yourself, and far be it from me to tell you how you conceive that or think about it or feel it. You've really got to work out what your first nature is. But I think an easy way of perhaps starting that process of questioning is to maybe your first nature is what you're born with. There are no evil babies. There's lots of research to show that even if you have a genetic predisposition for some kind of disordered personality, you also need to have trauma and a lack of safety in your childhood on a consistent basis for it to turn into something dangerous. So there's quite a lot of research now that the human genome has been mapped. They can see that if you have a gene for a personality disorder, for instance, but they also know that there needs to be trauma with that for it to become a dangerous representation in your adult life. It could just be a little trait rather than a full-blown, mental health psychiatric disorder. So your first nature is what you're born with. And in your first nature, right, that's where you are just absolutely gorgeous, perfect little being, divine spark of consciousness, whatever you want to call it. But you work out what that is for yourself, but I think you find it in nature. I find it when I'm with babies, when I'm with my puppy, who's being a very good boy today and not making any noise. I'll see if I can bring him over before we finish today to wave hello. In my relationships, my loving relationships, sitting on the beach, walking on the beach with the salt air whipping past my face, getting into my body and going for a walk. In those things that cause me awe and wonder, when I look at clouds, when I see the most beautiful hot pink sun coming through the trees at sunset, all of those things that lift our spirits connect us with our first nature. What connects you with yours? That's the question. Please, I'd love to hear in the comments. So we've got this nervous system, right? The consequences of all of the D's in our life, in this second nature, knee-jerk stuff, is that we end up with a nervous system that is prepared for survival. Now, you've probably heard of the window of tolerance. We talk about it a fair bit. It comes from Dr. Dan Siegel, who's a wonderful neuroscience and psychiatrist in America, very well known. You can go to drdan.com and he has lots of resources there if you're interested. So he came up with a model called the window of tolerance. And basically it's really simple. Up here in the ceiling is where we are hyper-aroused, right? We're in anxiety, panic, rage, anger, flying off the handle, irritated, annoyed. You know what that feels like, right? You're hyper-aroused, fight and flight. Anxiety and anger, that's fight and flight. Fight is anger, flight is anxiety. Or you can be down through the floor in a hypo-aroused state, which means you feel flat. There's no energy in the system. You feel despairing and hopeless and flat. Suicidal thoughts start to worry your mind and you can't see the point of living. There's no energy. It's very, very dark and flat down there. Now, we can all go to both those places as human beings, and we've probably all been there. Sometimes we have a preference. Some people will more automatically go into that more active energy in the hyper-aroused state. Some people will fall down the black hole quite easily into what's the point. In between those two states, Dr. Dan says there's a window of tolerance. Now, when you've been through a lot of challenge, you've had a lot of D's in your life, a lot of trauma, your window of tolerance, your ability to tolerate things provoking you becomes very narrow. So it doesn't take much for you to fly off the handle into anger or rage or a panic attack, or to fall down that black hole into despair and hopelessness. And what we teach at Quest really is how do we widen the window? So something can annoy us, but rather than flying off the handle, we can go, I'm feeling really annoyed right now. Given I'm having this reaction, what's the best response? Before we go into the behavior that can get us into trouble, before we yell at someone, before we honk our horn, before we, right, kick the cat. We don't kick cats, of course, but we want to sometimes. Or before we fall into that black hole, right? So you can have a little bit of the same triggers that would normally take you down, and you can just feel a little flat. You can take a few breaths, you can bring some energy back in your body, and you widen that window. So isn't that a great model for being able to manage your nervous system? So basically the challenges can build up, and then you reach a last straw effect, right? You might be really good, your window of tolerance is really wide, but more and more things are pushing your button. So you're either falling down that hole or flying off the handle. And doesn't that make sense? There's a concept I came across in the dieting world recently that I really resonated with. It's the, I'm not going to swear, it's the effort, F for a rude word, the effort phenomenon, where you just go, oh, I've been eating so well and now I've had a Kit Kat, just stuff it. You insert the other word if you want, but stuff it. I may as well just eat badly for the rest of the day, right? So we just get corn chips and hamburgers and junk food. Because we had a little caramello bear, which I had the other day, we just go, oh, stuff it. I may as well just, the day's written off, right? And that can take you down to stuff it. The whole month's written off, and before you know it, all the weight gets piled back on, doesn't it? That last straw effect where we just go, no, I don't care. It's all stupid. It's all worthless. And we really want to watch that moment where you might have been doing what you classify as really well, being able to respond and being able to manage and use lots of the strategies, and then something really big challenges you and you go back to your second nature, back to that, you know, chaos. You take a step back, you fall down the hole that is so familiar, and then you just go, that's it, none of it works, what's the point? Right? We really want to watch that moment, because we tend to write off all the progress we've made in that moment. And everybody grows by taking 2 steps forward and feeling really good about that, slipping back a little bit and forgiving yourself for that. How human of me. You know, do you know how long we've been doing these Facebook Lives for? Years now. I think since the 2020 fires and then COVID, we started doing these. So we're all very experienced at it now. And generally, I don't think I've ever had a technical issue like I had last week. And yet there I was at 2:45 noticing that I hadn't actually gone live. What had actually happened when I scrolled down, it was still loading and it was just going round and round, but it was outside of the vision of my screen, so I didn't see it, and I thought I was still live. Now, even as I say that now, I want to go and check and make sure that I'm live, right? And that's okay. But the process of growth is not to get freaked out by that. I literally forgave myself within a couple of minutes of that happening. I just went, how human of me. Did I wish it didn't happen? Yes. Did I have any control over it? No. Could I go backwards and change it? No. So I may as well just forgive myself for it, for being human, for not double checking. I didn't really carry anything with me. A little bit of embarrassment, tiny bit, but nothing outrageous. Not like 30 years ago, I would have fretted over that for weeks and felt bad about it. So you want to watch out, because how we actually grow is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. When you're in the 1 step back and you've fallen back into your old habit, into second nature, that's the magic moment. When you can go, how human of me. Wow, I must be really growing. I've just taken a step back, but this time I'm aware of it. That's magic. Don't make that wrong. Don't beat yourself up. Has anyone ever got to that point where you've been able to do that? It's really magic that you can lighten your heart instead of going, oh, I'm such an idiot, what's wrong with me? It's like, oh, I made a mistake. I'll probably never make that mistake again now that I've learned that. Or I could. Who knows? How's time going? Pretty good. So when you have the last straw effect, it's like the volcano can't take any more pressure and you blow, right? So watch out for that. You can explode into that hyper-aroused state, implode and do a violence towards yourself, where that negative self-talk starts rabbiting on inside your ear, saying how stupid you are and how worthless you are. That's just programming from your childhood that you've taken on to help you survive. It is not the truth of who you are. I always say we are all magnificent children of the universe. You know, I'm a magnificent child of the universe. The more I say that, and believe me, the tall poppy thing is alive and well. It's not like I feel like I'm the best thing that ever walked on the planet, anything like that. But the more I joke about that, I have to have my arms out, that I'm a magnificent child of the universe, the better I feel. Fake it till you make it. You know, what's stopping you? Go and stand in front of the mirror maybe later and look at yourself and just go, you're great. I love you. It's challenging to do that. We also know that when we're outside our window of tolerance, one of the consequences is that we start to indulge in self-soothing behaviors, self-soothing thoughts, and not all of those are healthy. You know, if you are literally saying, how human of you, you're doing really well, this is how life works, it's 2 steps forwards and 1 step back, sweetheart, it's okay, right? The world didn't end because your Facebook Live post didn't go live. Nobody got really hurt about that, right? So why would I hurt myself? That's a lovely, healthy, self-soothing, right, way of approaching it. But if you reach for those addictive substances and behaviors just because you don't know how to feel the feelings, because you go into deep shame over something or you're feeling stupid, right, that's when we can run into trouble. But you really need to recognize that any of those little addictions that we have, or big addictions, are all an attempt to soothe a nervous system where you never learned how to do it. No one ever taught you because they didn't know, not because they were bad people necessarily, but because they didn't know how to soothe their own emotional state. They couldn't teach their children or their students, if it was at school, how to manage it. And so you end up just being really going into automatic, non-thinking ways of soothing yourself. And that's what addiction is. So if you're having that, that's also an opportunity for you to not hate yourself, but to actually seek support for the feeling state that draws you to the addictive substance or behavior. When you start to give attention to what the feeling is underneath and get some support, the need for the addiction can settle. Now, sometimes you do need to go through a withdrawal phase, and that's a really difficult thing to do. And anyone that's done that, I congratulate you. And at any time, you can do that. I gave up alcohol at the end of 2016. I have used alcohol to soothe my feelings since I was 14. And I just took a month off to see how it would feel, and I really liked how it felt in my body. The arthritis in my fingers really settled down, so inflammation settled down, and I just haven't gone back to it. My mother has Alzheimer's, so I'm really keen to keep my brain in good shape. I thought it would be really hard to give up alcohol because I was a 2 to 3 glasses of wine girl many nights a week, and I still miss it sometimes. I still crave it, but it's just drifting away as if that's another person's life that used to drink 5 or 6 bottles of wine a week. So I don't know that person. When we're in our addictions and we're numbing ourselves out, as Brené Brown says, you can't numb yourself out selectively. You know, you can't numb out pain and shame without numbing out joy and vitality. If you're numbing one feeling out, you'll be numbing other feelings down as well. You know, you can't have joy and happiness over here, but I don't want to feel anything. You cannot numb selectively. You'll numb everything a little bit. And really the point of therapy is for you to learn how to emotionally regulate and to really love yourself again. And I know that's a big loaded word, but to really care for yourself. And sorry, I could go on about therapy. So what are the strategies? The simple strategies. I'm looking at the time. I've got a poem for you again today too. So there's lots of simple strategies for good mental health. Of course, there's a time when you need to perhaps go to hospital or to a clinic, or a non-clinical setting like we have at Quest can be just perfect for you as well. But it's all about the nervous system and the approach you take to yourself. So there's a blog on our website which I've added a link to in the description, and in that Patria and I really wrote that blog together, and I am following through the points in that blog so that if you want a written copy of what I'm talking about, I may not say exactly the same thing that's in the blog, but I'm going to go through the points so you can go and read the blog and it will give you a copy of what I'm talking about in case you need a memory jog later on. So firstly, I would say do less. Let the world wait. Let the making of the bed wait, the unpacking of the dishwasher. That load of washing can wait 10 more minutes in the machine. Does that strike fear into your heart? You know, like I'm a very busy bee, and I am learning and have learned to make things wait. That sometimes, like last night, I was about to cook dinner, I had all the ingredients, I was ready to go to make a lovely tagine chicken, and I was at the sink and I was about to get busy, and I said to my husband, I'm not going to cook. Let's shout ourselves a takeaway. It was such a good call, right? Even though probably what I was going to cook was healthier, like I just went, we put the order in and just waited for it to be delivered. We just took the night off. How lovely is that? Hardly any washing up. It's okay for us to just go easy, do a little less sometimes. Does it mean that you don't wash the dishes or put the washing out or whatever it is? No. You'll get to it later. And the thing is, if you put yourself first and do a little bit less, have that cup of tea on the balcony first, then you'll have more energy and self-worth to go and do all the tasks. So it really pays off to just prioritize your own needs and a little less activity first. Checking the time again. Exercise more. So do less sometimes, and other times do more, especially exercise. Oh my goodness, the benefits of exercise, even if that means sitting in your chair and just moving your body in a way that you can move to get the heart rate up. If you can get out and move your legs and your feet and get walking, the benefits are amazing. I think there's just so many benefits to walking that they're still discovering. Our bodies were designed to really move all day, every day, apart from when we're sleeping. So the world that we're living in, that's so sedentary, where we sit so much and we don't get our heart rate up enough, is really shortening our lives and our health. So yes, it can help with muscle tone and body fat, but you're never going to lose weight because you walk a lot. You know, maybe you'd have to walk an insane amount for that, but it can help you maintain a healthy weight. And it can help you prevent and manage lots and lots of conditions. Heart disease, obviously, hypertension, stroke, high blood pressure, even cancer and type 2 diabetes, and certainly depression. We know that exercise can help to prevent disease, to keep our body in good shape, to get all the functions of the body working as they should work. And when we sit on the lounge for 3 hours or 2 hours watching a movie, it's deeply relaxing, and do that too, but get up occasionally, not to get a bag of crisps. Get up occasionally, move, stretch your back out, you know, keep that metabolism firing until you get to bed. That's the time it needs to be doing nothing, completely nothing, right? So exercise more. And rest. Rest is so important. There are so many benefits to sleep, specifically sleep. You want to do everything you can to get a good night's sleep. You know, the sleep is when we do all our metabolic processing, where the body will pick up all the dead cells, the viruses, the bacteria, the stuff, the neurons that have finished their use, and it will transport them all out of our body through the skin and all the other excretion organs. So you want to get good sleep because that's when all that processing goes on. At the same time, you're getting a flood of good chemistry into your body. Things like natural killer cells, right? Natural killer cells run around the body, gobbling up viruses and the overgrowth of bacteria and cancer, even little tumors and things. We're all producing cancer cells all the time. What makes one person, we don't know. That's really isn't that the biggest question of all time? What causes cancer? We don't know, but there's plenty of evidence to show that when we sleep and we exercise and we adopt healthy habits, it can help us to either prevent some of these diseases or perhaps to help in the treatment while you're having treatment. So really, you just want to eat well, you want to rest well. Now, sleep is a tricky one. I am guilty of this. I know, because I find it, I love looking at my phone or my iPad before bed. But the older I get, the more I realize I can pay a really high price for that. And I've really got to stop that now. I've got to give up. Once the sun goes down, my devices have to go down. I'm making a deep commitment to myself to do that, because I can find if I just look at my phone for an hour and maybe scroll on social media, oh, it's so lovely, and I can be in bed doing it, and it's just so relaxing. And then I turn the light off feeling tired. Sleep will not come. Maybe till 2 or 3 in the morning. Now, when you are deprived of sleep like that, of good quality sleep, then you are not getting the health benefits of things like those natural killer cells. And that means your body can be prone to other disease processes. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just trying to sell you sleep, right? Get as good 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever your body needs, but 4 hours are not enough, right? So if you want to, we've got a sleep course on our online courses that Petria and I filmed together, and it's really, really good. And the workbook for that is really good as well. Get yourself a hobby. That's another thing you can do to really meet these challenges as well, is take up something that you enjoy. I love doodling. I don't know if I've got any of my doodles around. Let me have a look. I love a good doodle. If I'm trying to concentrate on something, I'll see if I can find one. Here's one. See? Just silly little things, just doodles, but I have books and books full of doodles. From when I'm listening to someone, when I'm thinking, when I'm just, oh, that's a nice one, isn't it? Right, half done ones. I just love to do a good doodle. Colouring in, I like the black ones, and then colouring in, it's deeply relaxing to my nervous system. And I'll sometimes just sit there for half an hour and just do doodles. What do you do? Do you colour in? Do you play golf? Do you like to crochet? Do you love to go surfing or paddle boarding? Do you learn a new language? I met someone not long ago that goes to a cafe in Sydney, not sure where, once a week, where people who want to learn French go. And I'm sure there's these sort of things around for everybody. And once you walk in the door for the 2 hours, you cannot speak anything but French. And it's for people trying to learn the language and practice their skills. Isn't that cool? I don't know what hobbies you love, but I would really like to know what they are. Setting boundaries, that's another really important thing. In your second nature, when you are little, if boundaries were set too harshly for you by parents, you can grow up with a problem where you don't want any boundaries when you become an adolescent or an adult. Or you might want too many boundaries, too overly controlled, right? Lots of things can happen. Or if you didn't have any good, clear boundaries when you were little, or if you were violated in some way, some physical way, then you can grow up feeling like other people can, I belong to other people, I don't belong to myself. So sometimes our boundaries can be overbound, where we're actually holding ourselves too tight, and in that way you need to learn to breathe your boundaries open a little. Or we can be underbound, where we have no boundaries, take me, use me, right, and I'm just pleasing everybody, my life belongs to everyone else. And then you've got to bring them in a bit and find what you want and who you are and what's okay by you and what's not okay. And that's really when you need to go to therapy, when you start realizing that your boundaries are not formed very well, or they're overformed, underbound or overbound. That's when you often need the help of a really good skilled therapist to help you work out who you are and what you want. It'll be there, and it won't be that hard to dig around and find, but it's really hard to do that on your own. There's a really good book called, I think it's called The Dance of Anger by Harriet Lerner. She wrote it back in the 90s, but honestly, of all my books on boundaries, I still think it's the best that I recommend to clients. She really talks about the appropriate use of anger and why we don't say what we need, and because we're so frightened of hurting other people's feelings. So I really recommend that book. You really need support as well. And if you are feeling isolated and disconnected, it can be a hard thing to find. It can be one of the upsides of social media, but we know that social media is so corrupted now with algorithms that bring to you scary things. And then if you hit on something that's scary, it'll bring more scary things until all you're doing is watching things that make you feel frightened. But lately I've been searching deliberately on social media, because I do enjoy a little bit of scrolling, for happy things, for people that make me laugh, and then I'm getting more of that coming into my feed. So you can manipulate those algorithms too, but you can use it for support, you know. But if you can find in real life, as they say, people to support you, you don't need many, but you do need to make a bit of effort to cross that line and to find people, pardon me, who share similar interests as you, pardon me, as you. I'm gonna have a sip of water. Easier said than done, I know. Self-improvement as well can be a fantastic way for you to deal with mental health challenges. Read books like Brené Brown's latest book called Atlas of the Heart. What a fantastic name. Is all about different emotions and discovering the nuance of, so she'll use a word like awe or wonder, and then she'll dig into what they mean, and it really helps to broaden our emotional language. One of the things she said right at the beginning of that book is, if you ever feel resentful, it means that you've let somebody else walk all over your boundaries. You haven't set the limits of what's okay with you. I went, oh my gosh, I think that's true. Wow, I didn't like that, because for me, when I feel resentful, it's someone else's fault, right? And I had to look at, where have I let someone else get away with something I wasn't comfortable with, right? Where did I go into people pleasing, into fawning, as they call it? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, where you people please. I've done enough therapy to know where that comes from, and I do work against it. And of course, meditation and mindfulness tend to. There's a reason why we talk about meditation and mindfulness so much at Quest. It is not the realm of the hippies and the alternative people anymore. I'm sure there's plenty of people who do lots of other alternative things that love meditation, but there's also plenty of doctors and scientists and universities and psychology faculties teaching mindfulness and meditation now, because the research is rock solid. You know, it's been repeated for decades now that meditation and mindfulness can actually change your brain. And if you've had trauma as a little one, where it's not even in your memory bank, you don't even know, it's in your body, there's hypervigilance and anxiety or whatever it is, you can be sure something frightened you when you were little. It's gone into your default mode and it keeps turning up. And meditation and mindfulness can give you that moment during your day where you come back to take a breath, feel your body, right? It's not to say that everything's okay or it fixes anything, but it begins to change you in relationship with everything that's going on. You become less reactive, and that's not just less reactive because you feel less reactive. It's less reactive because your brain changes. Your amygdala shrinks, your insula grows, like all the different structures in the limbic part of the brain, the emotional centers of the brain, begin to change with the effect of mindfulness and meditation. So if you can find a practice, we love the Insight Timer app. Patria's meditation, Coming to Your Senses, is an 8-minute one. That's free on our website, but it's also, she's put it on the Insight Timer app as well. I've got 5 on the Insight Timer app. So there's 20,000 on there, and there's lots of different apps. That's just an easy, free one, easy to access things. So find a couple that you like and practice them regularly and do the experiment. See if you feel any different. So we're nearly finished, and I hope that makes sense to you, that we're all living with incredible challenges, and the last few years it has ramped up. Climate change, COVID, domestic violence, all of those D's that I talked about. You know, if we're human beings, we're going to be challenged, we're going to suffer, and it does have a consequence for our mental health. But if you put in some really simple practices, don't overwhelm yourself too much with any shoulds around that. It's like, well, I could actually go for a 5-minute walk today. Put your shoes on and commit to walking to the letterbox and back. You know, I could take 5 minutes to have a cup of tea before I look after everybody else. The simple things. I could wear something or have something that reminds me to take a breath, you know, to just come to my senses throughout my day in some way. It could be a bit of jewelry that you wear, you know, it could be something that just reminds you. I've stopped short of getting a tattoo for it, but I think that could be a good idea too. So I hope that's been of use to you, because we really understand that good mental health doesn't happen by accident. Hope has to have legs. We need to put a little bit of action. If we are waiting to feel motivated to do these things that we know represent self-care, you could be waiting a long time. Motivation happens after action, not before. Motivation happens after action. You need to take a little step in the direction of the goal that you have. And then when you do that, the quickest way to build self-esteem is to say to yourself what it is you want to do and go and do it. So just go and clean out your sock drawer, repack it, throw out the ones that you're never going to find the matching sock for, put it all back in, and you will notice a little lift in your mood. Go and clean out the cutlery drawer. Don't worry about cleaning the whole house that needs vacuuming and cleaning and dusting and mopping. Right? Just do one little drawer. Clean out that second drawer with the 400 things that are all crumbs in the bottom of it. Clean it out, throw out the utensils that you haven't used for a long time, pack them all back in, and then during the day you'll come back and go, that drawer's so gorgeous. And that gives you a little lift. You might just go clean the bathroom then. Right? Do these little things that build self-worth and self-esteem. We are here to support you every Wednesday at 11 a.m. All of the videos that we do on Facebook Live remain on the video section of the Facebook page. And also if you want to join Patria's meditation group, 7:30 every Monday, she's live. But again, she puts all those videos on the page so you can go back and look it up under different topics and go and have a look sometime, anytime you like. And you can join that group by just hitting the button on our Facebook page. We are here, Quest Connect, hopefully on the first Sunday of every month, not the second one, Margie. I told you I've forgiven myself, but there's a little something there. I still regret making a mistake. I'm not particularly comfortable with making mistakes, but I have forgiven myself. Margie, how human. I once went through everything, like I was thinking about something I'd done wrong or said wrong. So I decided while I was out working I would forgive myself. And I said this the other day, I think, and I just went back through my life and started forgiving all the things that I had been holding on to that I thought I'd done wrong. Being mean to my mum as a teenager, being quite reactive when I was younger, very reactive, drinking too much, falling down drunk. Oh my God. Thank God there was no social media when I was a young woman. All those things, I just forgave myself. Why hang on to it? Anyway, take a leaf out of my book. So I thought for our meditation to end, I'm going to read you a little poem. Again, it comes from my dear friend and colleague, Bernadette Arena, and it's by a lovely poet called Dana Faulds, Faulds, and it's called Just for Now. If we want to live with good mental health, this is the message we could take on. So you can close your eyes or you can leave them open and watch me reading it. It's up to you. Just for now, without asking how, let yourself sink into the stillness. Just for now, lay down the weight you so patiently bear upon your shoulders. Feel the earth receive you, and the infinite expanse of sky grow even wider as your awareness reaches up to meet it. Just for now, allow a wave of breath to enliven your experience. Breathe out whatever blocks you from the truth. Just for now, be boundless, free, with awakened energy tingling in your hands and feet. Drink in the possibility of being who and what you really are, so fully alive that the world looks different, newly born and vibrant. Just for now. Thank you, Dana Faulds. And thank you so much for joining me. I will go in and have a look at any comments you've made later. And until then, much love to you all, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.